All right, let's jump into it, huh? This time we're looking at the world of combat sports. A whole mix of stuff this time, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, retirements, we got new leagues popping up, trying to change things up. Even a bit of,
Behind the scenes stuff.
yeah, some drama, right?
Nice.
We've got excerpts from articles like Anthony Smith makes retirement decision clear ahead of UFC Kansas City, it's called. My Kids Deserve It. Dana White. Turkey Alaushik aiming to upend boxing's fractured foundation. That one looks interesting.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And a whole bunch more. Where do you even want to start with all this?
I mean, it seems like, things are changing, right? Like,
Big time.
yeah, like a real power shift might be happening.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's start with something kind of close to home, The human side of all this.
Okay, yeah.
Anthony Smith, top UFC contender, right?
Mm.
He's saying he's done after just one more fight. He wants to focus on his family.
Right.
He's 36. I mean, it's not old, but he's not young for a fighter.
Yeah, it's not...
And there's this quote, right? He wants to be as close to a normal human as possible. I mean, that kind of makes you think, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that really says a lot about how tough this sport is. You know? And not just, like, physically,
Right.
but, like, mentally and everything.
And it's not just Smith, right? Jalen Turner, he's only 29.
Wow.
He just retired, too, right after a loss at UFC 313. He was already kind of thinking about retiring even before that fight. And Dana White even said he basically always agrees with fighters who say it's time to be done.
I mean, that makes sense.
Mm.
I guess, do you think we're seeing a change here? Like, are fighters starting to prioritize, the rest of their lives more?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to be tough to keep doing that to yourself.
Oh, yeah. I mean, high-impact sport, right?
Oh, right.
And the damage just adds up.
Yeah.
I mean, what's interesting is that, like, Smith and Turner, they're still, they could keep fighting. But they're choosing to stop.
Right, they're not.
It seems like maybe more and more fighters are realizing how risky it is and thinking about what they want to do after fighting.
So what does that mean for the future of the sport? Right? More early retirements.
I don't know. I guess we'll see.
Like, how will that even affect, who's even around to fight and how they even train?
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
For sure. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit. You mentioned big changes. I mean, there's this huge story in boxing. Dana White, the UFC president, right?
Yeah.
He's teaming up with Turkey Alashik, to make a whole new boxing organization called TKO.
Oh, yeah, that one. I still can't believe that's happening. It's like, what?
I know, right? It's wild.
Yeah.
Like two totally different worlds, right? Coming together.
But, I mean, it's kind of a smart move. Alashik, he's the chairman of entertainment in Saudi Arabia, right?
Yeah.
And he's already been, like, shaking things up in boxing with those huge events and all the money they're putting into it.
Right.
And now he's got White, who, he built the UFC from almost nothing into this global thing.
Yeah.
And they're talking about, like, completely changing how boxing works, making it better.
Yeah, and some people are not happy about it, right?
Yeah.
Like Oscar De La Hoya called it offensive, but other people are like, hey, maybe this can fix some of the problems with boxing.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different belts, right? And it's
Way too many.
yeah, it's a mess.
And the fights, a lot of them are just, they're not even fair matchups.
Exactly. And that's what TKO is trying to, like, take advantage of, right? They think they can use all their money in White's, promotional skills to make boxing, like, simpler and make more money.
Yeah.
The question is, can they actually do it? And what happens to, like, the big names in boxing already? Like Top Rank and all of them.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's going to be something to watch.
Yep.
Okay. So Dana White making a big move, but it's not the only shakeup happening, right? There's also this Global Fight League, the GFL, brand new MMA league. They just had their first draft, and they're doing some interesting stuff.
Oh, yeah. Like what?
Well, they reveal the brackets like they do in
Like March Madness.
Yeah, exactly. Which is, I mean, that's smart, right? Gets people excited.
Yeah, for sure.
And they got some big names like Tyron Woodley. He was the first pick overall.
Oh, wow.
And there's all these other guys from the UFC and Bellator who are, maybe looking for another chance.
Interesting. And what about Dylan Dennis? I saw he was saying the UFC didn't want him.
Oh, yeah, right? He said he was too much of a liability.
Too wild, I guess.
Yeah. But then they wouldn't put him on, what's it called? The Ultimate Fighter. So now he's on the GFL's New York team.
Oh, that's going to be interesting.
Right.
I mean, he's a good fighter, but he's definitely a lot. you know,
Yeah, I guess we'll see if that helps the GFL or hurts them.
for sure.
It's like, it really feels like combat sports are at a crossroads, you know?
Totally.
Like you got all these new leagues trying to do things differently, and then the old ones, you know?
They got to keep up, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, you got the people who love how things have always been,
Yeah.
but then you got these new guys who are like, let's change everything.
Yeah, yeah. And it's not just the people running things, like the fighters are changing too, you know? Like they're more well-rounded.
Yeah,
They know how to like work the media better,
for sure.
and they're thinking about their health more, you know, like long term.
Right. And that means the leagues and stuff, they got to adapt too.
Yeah.
Can't just keep doing the same old thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's interesting though, right? Like Dana White with this TKO thing,
Right.
like he's always been the guy shaking things up in the UFC.
Yeah.
But now he's working with someone who's like part of the old system in boxing.
Yeah. It's a weird move. Right. He gets all this money and power from Alashik,
Right.
but can he really change boxing? I mean, it's been the same way forever.
Yeah, it's so stuck in its ways. I mean, is he even like really trying to fix boxing? Or is this just, you know,
Just another power grab.
yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. What about the GFL?
Oh, yeah.
They want to be the new UFC.
Right, right.
But I mean, the UFC is huge.
Yeah.
That's a tough fight.
It's like what's that story? David and Goliath.
Yeah, something like that. But I mean, David won, right? So you never know.
So what do they got to do? The GFL, I mean, like what would even make that work?
Well, they got to be different, right?
Right.
Like offer something that the UFC doesn't.
Right.
They're kind of doing that with the teams and the tournament.
Yeah.
But they got to keep going with that. Keep doing new things.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, one thing that always gets me about combat sports is like the stories, you know?
Oh yeah.
It's real people,
Yeah.
real lives.
Absolutely.
It's not just, you know, entertainment.
Yeah, yeah. It's about like the sacrifices they make.
Yeah.
What they have to overcome.
Like Anthony Smith, right?
Yeah.
Giving up all that money to be a good dad.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or Jalen Turner. Like, he could have kept fighting.
Yeah.
But he chose to be healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And those stories, like, they mean something to people.
For sure.
They remind you that there's more to life than winning, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
But even the guys who are, you know, always causing trouble, like Dylan Dennis.
Yeah, yeah, him.
They have reasons for what they do.
Right, right. I mean, he's good, Dennis.
Oh, yeah.
But he knows how to, like, get people talking.
Yeah, yeah, he's playing a character almost, right?
Yeah, yeah. And people, they either love him or they hate him.
Exactly. And you never know what he's going to do.
Makes him interesting.
Yeah. Okay, so new leagues, new fighters, but is the fighting itself changing?
I mean, it's always changing, right? Like,
Yeah.
they're taking techniques from different styles.
Yeah.
Mixing them up, you know?
Yeah, yeah, it's like they got to keep one step ahead.
Right. Always looking for a new way to win.
Like John Jones, right? With
Oh,
his reach and how he fights so weird.
Yeah, and then you got guys like Habib
Yeah.
who just, like, take you down and that's it.
It's over, right?
man.
So you can't just be good at one thing anymore.
No, you got to do it all.
Striking, grappling, everything.
Yeah, and be able to, like, switch it up, you know?
Yeah.
Figure out your opponent.
Like a chess match almost.
Yeah, exactly.
And these new leagues like the GFL and PFL, they're making it even more about strategy.
Yeah, with the tournaments and all that.
Yeah.
You can't just, go all out every time.
You're right, right.
Got to think about the whole season.
Okay, so that's changing how they train too, right?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
for sure. More strength and conditioning, more recovery, more, like, mental stuff, too.
You're taking it seriously.
Yeah, yeah, like real athletes.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of that, like one thing that's been a big issue lately is fighter pay.
Right.
Like, are they getting paid enough for what they risk
I mean, it's a tough one, right? They're putting their bodies on the line every fight.
and their brains, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And a lot of them end up with, problems later on.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's also business, right?
Right, the promoters, they're the ones putting up the money.
Yeah.
And they say they're paying what they can, what the market will allow.
Yeah, but with these new leagues and how popular fighting is getting, I don't know.
Maybe that's changing, right?
Maybe.
Fighters are, like, realizing they have power, you know? They want more,
Yeah.
and they're speaking out using social media and stuff.
Yeah, like Francis Ngannou, John Jones.
Yeah, they're not afraid to, like, fight for what they think they deserve.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't know, it feels like we're at this really interesting point in combat sports. So much is changing
For sure.
inside the ring or the cage and outside too. Like who
Yeah.
knows what's going to happen next.
Yeah, it's exciting.
You know, with all these new leagues and stuff, what does it even mean to be a champion anymore? Like what about the belts?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, the belts are supposed to be like you're the best, right?
Yeah.
But there's so many different organizations now.
Yeah.
And in boxing, it's even worse, right? Like multiple belts in the same weight class.
Right, right. It's like who's actually the best? It's hard to even tell anymore.
Yeah, and it makes it, I don't know, less special. You know?
Yeah.
Like you could be a champion, but you haven't even fought the toughest guys.
It's more about like hype and making money than actually being the best.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what Dana White and Turkey Alaushi, that's what they're saying they want to fix with TKO, right?
Right. Fewer belts, better fights.
Hmm.
But can they actually change boxing?
I mean, it's a tough system to change, right? A lot of people like it the way it is.
And what about MMA? Like the UFC belts, they're still the most important.
I think so, yeah.
Huh.
Now you get Bellator, PFL, GFL, they all have their own champs.
So it's almost like it matters less which belt you have and more like how you got it.
Yeah, yeah. Like who did you beat? What organization was it in? It's kind of
I
complicated.
think you need a guidebook or something to figure it all out.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, so looking ahead, I mean, what are the big questions for combat sports? Like, what do we even need to think about?
Well, one thing I'm thinking about is technology. Like, how's that going to change things? They're already using VR and all this data stuff to train.
Yeah, but that's just the beginning, right?
Oh, for sure. Imagine like personalized training programs, AI telling you how to fight your opponent, maybe even like real-time feedback during the fight.
And what about watching the fights? Like multiple camera angles, choosing your own commentators, maybe even like virtual reality stuff?
Yeah, who knows? It could be totally different in a few years.
And the media too, right? Like streaming services, everyone's cutting cable.
Yeah, will the UFC still be on top?
Or will everything be split up, you know? Different leagues on different platforms.
And what about social media? Fighters are getting huge followings online.
Yeah, they can like build their own brand.
Right, and maybe they don't even need the big organizations anymore.
So what do you tell fans who want to keep up with all this?
I'd say be open to new things. Don't be afraid of change
Okay.
and stay informed. Like learn about the sport, the history, the different styles.
Knowledge is power, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
The more you know, the more you can appreciate everything that's happening.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's combat sports, right? You never know what's going to happen next. Always something new, always exciting.
That's one way to put it.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into combat sports. We'll catch you next time.